The Straw Hats versus Kizaru and CP0, Law versus Blackbeard, Garp versus Blackbeard, Cross Guild versus the Marines. The world of One Piece is going absolutely crazy, as the dams that have been holding back all the strongest characters in the world from taking action are finally being broken down, and the floodgates have opened up to what is set to be easily and indisputably the greatest tournament arc in manga history. Just because there's not exactly an official bracket and stadium for the contenders to fight in, that doesn't change the fact that what we have been building towards for so long is clearly a tournament to end all tournaments. Simply a giant open world tournament saga to bring the series to an epic conclusion. A winner-takes-all format, with the prize being dominion over the seas. And the simple reason it's so much more exciting than any comparable tournament setup is the sheer scale of build-up to this main event. All the major contenders are characters that have been built up over literally 1,000 chapters. 1,000 chapters spent hyping up individual characters one at a time, giving us glimpses and teases of their strength, while still holding back on showing the full scale of what everyone can do. Drawing out readers' anticipation for decades to finally get to see the absolute top brass of the world showcase their full strength. Now, with everyone about to let loose, One Piece's incomparable amount of setup, hyping up the best of the best, is about to give us a payoff that is simply unprecedented by any other tournament storyline in fiction, period. Think I'm exaggerating? Let me break down the direction the story seems to be going, and the way that current developments seem to be setting a trend for One Piece that really will make it deliver on the notion of the ultimate battle royale. But before we get any further, make sure to subscribe. And happy 2023 to all of you. Since it's the new year, make sure you start it off right and healthy with HelloFresh, the sponsor for this video. If you're like me, you probably ate a bunch of unhealthy food over the holidays. Huge dinners, cookies, desserts, etc. So now that the holiday season is over and the slate's been wiped clean, let's turn things around right away with some nutritious meals delivered straight to your door. HelloFresh delivers easy-to-make meals that will make healthy eating stress-free, with recipes that can be thrown together in less than 20 minutes with zero grocery shopping required. There are over 35 weekly recipes that you can customize. Calorie smart, carb smart, you can swap in more protein to get swole, and so on. Not to mention, you can save a ton of money in 2023 by just using HelloFresh, since it's cheaper than grocery shopping and even 25% cheaper than takeout. The best part is, you can get 21 free meals today with your order. Just go to HelloFresh.com and use code MrMorge21 for 21 free meals plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com and code MrMorge21 for 21 free meals plus free shipping. Link in the description below. So that aside, first of all, what changed in One Piece? Why is it that the ocean has now become a huge battle royale? Well, the world of One Piece was, for a long time, a world that was sort of holding its breath. The further the Straw Hats explored the world, the more we learned about the existing balance of power, how the strength of the Yonko, the Marines, the Shichibukai, and so on, all countered each other in a way that everything was at a sort of a standstill. Even just two figures like Shanks and Whitebeard meeting to talk was considered a huge ripple in the fabric of the world. That's why One Piece's storytelling for so long could afford to go at such a slow pace. Even though there were so many strong characters vying for dominion over the seas, the Straw Hats could still take very leisurely journeys, meandering through islands with long-running, isolated storylines, with major battles being few and far between, and generally only saved for the end of long arcs. That's why the Marineford storyline, when it first came out, was such a game-changer. For just a brief moment, just a brief span of 50 or so chapters, the floodgates did open a little, and two of the major world factions, the Whitebeard Pirates and the Marines, went at it. Right there we got a glimpse into the future of the story, a world of chaos with godlike beings throwing haymakers at one another. But it was quickly brought to a close, and the gates were locked up again. This is the idea that Law explains early on in the New World, that since the Marineford War, everyone has simply kept the peace. Even as the Straw Hats explore the New World, we have still been getting a very meandering journey, taking on characters that are very settled and complacent in their status. Caesar Clown, Doflamingo, Big Mom, even Kaido, who was still in the process of setting up for war. We were still getting that regular One Piece pattern of long arcs leading up to big battles at the end, and we the reader understood that we will always have to wait for major fights with strong characters. But since Wano ended and the final saga has begun, that script is now officially out the window. Since from here on out, we are no longer dealing with complacent characters. While the isolated battle in Wano was taking place, the rest of the world stopped holding its breath. Starting with the Reverie, a chain reaction took place between the revolutionaries' attack, the abolishment of the Shichibukai system, and the Celestial Dragon's desire for a great cleansing that all essentially unofficially began the final war. We now have a world where everyone is in motion. Everyone is actually finally coming out of their little hiding holes, their comfort zones, and chasing after new motivations. Mihawk and Crossguild are back on the hunt after the Marines. Blackbeard has decided, in the wake of the previous Yonko's defeat, that now is the time to swoop in and begin picking off devil fruits and valuable assets left and right. Of course, Luffy, Law, and Kid are up-and-comers with a full head of steam gunning for the One Piece directly, and now even Shanks is making some sort of a move for it. Not to mention, the revolutionaries have inadvertently sparked a worldwide revolution. And of course, the Marines are going on the offensive in response to the new chaos of the sea. And lastly, Im and the Gorosei, with their own agendas, are taking actions like sending CP0 after Vegapunk and erasing islands like Lulusia Kingdom. The entire One Piece world is at the beginning stages of war, and again, the war is really more like a tournament, as has been established for so long. All of it leads to the end goal of King of the Seas. The beauty of this tournament is that some of the competitors are those that we have gotten to see grow and become strong over time, starting from rookies and gradually coming into their own as true contenders, such as Law, Kid, Blackbeard, and of course Luffy. Other contenders are long-awaited and absurdly hyped-up heavyweights, such as Shanks, Dragon, Mihawk, Akainu, and so on. Unlike other tournaments, the brilliance of One Piece's final saga is that every major player in contention is someone that we have known for a long time, someone we have been waiting on. There are no random new faces, no characters we have to suddenly get familiar with and build excitement for from scratch. The groundwork for everyone is done. The excitement, the motivations, the stakes for everyone has been established. Every single player in this grand tournament has been integrated into the story far beforehand, and all of their individual storylines have led them to this inevitable endpoint of a battle royale. And to fully appreciate the sheer hype of what we are about to experience, consider this: a single chapter where Blackbeard and Rayleigh simply faced off, without even exchanging a single blow. Felt like something out of a dream for most One Piece fans. It seemed like practically fan fiction that out of the blue, Blackbeard and Rayleigh would be having a standoff, ending with Rayleigh sending Blackbeard running away with just the sheer weight of his reputation. The reception to that chapter in itself speaks volumes as to the level of anticipation One Piece has built up over decades for these characters, and even that is just a glimpse of what's to come, because Blackbeard and Rayleigh facing off, as exciting as it was, could be swapped out and mixed around with countless dozens and dozens of permutations of characters that would be just as, if not more, exciting. And it really seems like we were about to get a long string of dream matchups from now through the end of the series that many of us would never have guessed at. Just a few chapters later, we had Blackbeard and Law going at it in an actual fight, and this again felt like a dream matchup that we just got out of nowhere. Remember, there was a time that battles such as Blackbeard versus Ace, or even a clash such as Whitebeard versus Shanks, and of course the entire Marineford War, were events that had a tremendous amount of lead-up beforehand. In the final saga of One Piece, that is no longer the case. Anything can happen at any time, because the huge defining difference is that all the setup is done. All the motivations are in place. All the characters are on the move, which means almost any and every matchup can make sense. If we see Mihawk facing off against Fujitora next chapter, that makes sense. We know Crossguild is hunting Marines. If we see a Shanks versus Kid rematch on Elbaf, that would make sense, as we know that that's been a long-running vendetta. Consider how quickly Oda can take things from 0 to 100 now. While initially we thought that CP0 were the main villains of the Egghead Island arc, and the only real obstacles the Straw Hats would face, a relatively minor conflict, in the span of just 3 chapters, it has escalated to the Straw Hats versus CP0 plus the Seraphim, plus Kizaru, while simultaneously setting up Garp to go fight the Blackbeard pirates, while Kuma is potentially assaulting Marijoa, while Kid is being planted ahead of time for a potential confrontation at Elbaf with the Straw Hat Pirates or even the Red-Haired Pirates. All of these are extremely exciting setups that required no prior build-up and don't feel random in the slightest, since again, we are now in a world that is in motion where this gigantic roster of characters, motivations, and storylines storylines have all been established. Even looking at the current story setups, there are many more twists and turns and matchups that can be just thrown in that would blend in perfectly naturally with what's going on right now. The Big Mom Pirates could crash the party at Beehive Island to try and pick up Pudding. Smoker and Tashigi getting involved at either the Egghead Island conflict or the Beehive Island conflict would both make sense. Aokiji making his way over to Egghead, that's right next to Beehive, and revealing himself as a member of SWORD would even make sense. In the span of the last 10 chapters, the world of One Piece has begun to shift into such a more frenzied and chaotic landscape than it has ever been before, and in another 10, it could look drastically different than it does even right now. And I think what makes all this so interesting is the same thing that's necessary for most tournament arcs to remain interesting, is that it has to be hard to predict. Even if you know the main character is going to be the eventual champion, you don't want to know the exact path that it will take or how the bracket will play out. And what's so amazing about One Piece right now is that while many of us entered the final saga thinking we had a pretty good roadmap of how the story would likely play out, probably after Egghead we'd go to Elbaf, then Raftel, then some sort of final war, maybe a couple mini detours sprinkled in here or there. But as it's turning out, just because we know the general direction and key milestones to hit, we really have no idea what is going to happen along the way. We have no idea what fights or character matchups Oda really has in mind for the rest of the story. Because I never saw Law fighting Blackbeard. I never saw Garp, of all people, swooping in to lead a raid on the Blackbeard pirates. I never imagined we'd get a full rematch of the Straw Hats versus Kizaru, but also with the Seraphim and CP0 thrown in. I never thought I'd see Mihawk set up to start hunting Marines. Anyone can run into anyone, and there's almost always going to be a good reason for it at this point, and sure, we know we'll see the red-haired pirates eventually knocked out. And we know the Kid Pirates won't be the ones to get the One Piece. And we know Cross Guild probably won't go that far in the grand scheme of things. And we even know that the last round is probably the Straw Hat Pirates versus the Blackbeard Pirates. And probably with Im as the true hidden final boss in the sort of bonus round after that. But none of that matters because, like all things in One Piece, knowing the direction of the journey doesn't change the fact that Oda has an incredible talent at making the steps of the journey extraordinarily unpredictable. And that's why it's so funny that while we're in the final saga, technically the destination that we've been working towards for so long, now more than ever Oda is able to surprise us more than ever with twists out of left field that simultaneously work perfectly logically with everything set up so far. So here's to the start of a new year of One Piece and the beginning of the greatest tournament arc any of us will ever read. Let me know if you agree in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video then definitely like and subscribe.